Hello, everyone. Monica Jazik here from Real Property Investments. And here we are on our free weekly webinar where we bring in a different expert every week to talk about different interesting topics, especially in relation to the COVID-19. Today we have Shauna Arnott of Haste and Hustle, and she's here to talk to us all about entrepreneurship, Gary Vee, Richard Branson, and all sorts of amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Shauna, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Always, I know, it's always a pleasure to touch base with old friends, and I've been following you and the Haste to Hustle and all the amazing things that you've been promoting during this COVID-19. I know this is an exceptionally crazy time for you, and we're going to kind of talk about certain huge pivots that Haste and Hustle has had to make because of COVID. You are totally a trooper, Shauna. Like, what you have achieved is nothing short of amazing. But let's jump way back 2 years ago, how we actually first met. I'll give the audience and attendees a quick background, and then you can tell us a little more about Haste and Hustle. I remember I met you 2 years ago when I came to my very first Haste and Hustle event. A good friend, Ian Sabo, was bringing awareness to this amazing inspirational event that was raising money for at-risk youth. He came to one of our events in a short bus and sold a bunch of books and donated it, and together I think we sold about 20 tickets for at-risk youth to attend this Haste and Hustle event where actually Gary Vee was speaking. Mm-hmm. Now, I was so excited about that because obviously we love to help. But then when my son, he was 13 at the time, he said, I'm a huge Gary Vee fan. I grabbed him and his best friend and dragged them along and put them in the front row, and they got to see Gary. So they were absolutely thrilled, and we got to meet him and got a book, and it was just an overall amazing day, an amazing event. Can you tell us like a little more about that event, and how come you chose Gary Vee? Of all the speakers, why Gary?
Well, the story for that event was that, first of all, let me just say I was so happy that we ended up having 320 at-risk youth attend that day, compliments of people like yourself. So I was thrilled for that. But the reason we went and booked Gary is actually started the year before. So the year before was our first event. And we hosted it in Niagara, which is where I'm from. And we had Gary Vee. We also had Casey Neistat and a number of other significant speakers from around Canada and North America. And we had booked him because I wanted someone who could have a great impact on the business community with a strong business message. And then being from Niagara, I'm like, also, it's nice to have someone with a wine background, which he obviously does. So in our first year, that's why we chose him, because of that. And when I asked him to come and worked through his agency, it worked out. So that was why we had him. But in that first year, I made like a ton of mistakes because I'd never done an event produced like that before. And so I ended up losing a bunch of money, and, the event went off really well. People loved it. But, in the back end, I was like, oh my gosh, this is killing me. Anyway, but he knew that. And so he had phoned me, and I'd never had any contact with him. He phoned me the day before, and he said to me, he's like, if you lose money on this event, I will come back and do a second event with you for free. And we'll partner and whatever, he'll help me promote it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So sure enough, I did lose money.
That was really nice of him to do that.
Nice. I had never even spoken to him to that point. I had just emailed, I just had contact with his agent up until that point and his assistant. And so I had emailed his assistant to tell them that we were making a couple of changes that we were having to make because of this, loss. And it was just some logistical stuff. And so then his assistant texted me and said, hey, we're going to set up a call for you in the morning. And it was the day before the event. And that's what he told me. And I couldn't believe it. It was the nicest thing, because you're right. I didn't know him. He had no reason to help me. He just is, he really is that guy. And so that's what happened. So then the day after that event, I was like, well, I better make sure that opportunity happens, because he's not going to come banging my door down. I better start emailing. So I emailed him on it was a Sunday, so I think it was a couple days later. And I said, is that option still on the table? I'd love to take you up on it. Whatever. And he emailed me right back and said, yes, let's get this in the books. And so that's how he came to be at the event that you were at. So that's when we decided to move it to Toronto and build an audience there. And it made it significantly easier. We were able to earn back a huge portion of our loss and then also help a lot of kids. So it was just, that event was my favorite event, because it really did sort of bring my whole vision that I initially had for Haste and Hustle to fruition.
Absolutely. And so do you normally align your events with these sort of social causes? And why was at-risk youth so important to you?
Well, yes, I do always try to find some sort of charity or cause that's meaningful that we can support, because we are making money to off ticket sales and different things, so we can certainly, and I love to give back. I always tell everybody that I'm a humanitarian first, and then I'm a business person, and in my heart, that's what I really feel good about. So if I can make sure there's some kind of alignment there, then I do. And I choose causes based on a few things. The reason we chose at-risk youth is because, Ian and I were having a lot of conversations at that time, and we were talking a lot about the entrepreneurial skill set that's often developed within at-risk youth, because they have to be, they're kind of hardened in some ways, because they've had to do a lot of hard things in their life. They're not afraid to be in a little bit of pain, and I don't mean physical pain. I mean they can go longer periods of time and deal with things a little bit. They're not as soft, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And they're innovative, and they're creative, and they're hungry. And so I thought, the only problem is that they don't have opportunities given to them to learn and grow some of the other skill sets that are necessary to polish that. So I thought, if we can bring as many at-risk youth kids or at-risk youth to this event that already have this sort of natural entrepreneurial spirit and skill, and then they can kind of polish it through some of the lessons they'll learn and some of the networking they'll do, then we've just given them an opportunity. And that just made me feel so good. And so that's what happened. And I've actually heard from some of them since, and I've seen some great, I know this one kid who was there, and he was only 17 at the time, I think, and now he's running his own agency, and he's doing very well.
That's amazing.
And and he's such a nice guy. So it's, that's just one example. So that's a really special experience when you can,
Well, I know Ian's story is really interesting. How he used to take the short bus to school. He had trouble with school. He was an at-risk youth. He was on that road. And now entrepreneurialism saved him, really. He's a brilliant entrepreneur. He has an amazing business. He is a huge philanthropist. He actually reclaimed his old short bus and pimped it all out and drives around all over the country and does amazing things. He actually drove it to one of our events. We had a mastermind in the short bus. It was nothing short of incredible. I just love him, and I loved seeing him at the Haste to Hustle as well. And the reason it was so important to him is he could kind of relate to that. Now, I could kind of relate to that too. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a bit of an edge to them. We're probably not the best listeners, in the box thinkers. We all probably have a little bit of a rebellious streak and really don't like people telling us what to do. Kind of relate to that, to your own personality. And when you were growing up, did you find yourself having a lot of entrepreneurial like listic traits, or were you more of prize people in the
Yeah, I
box?
think so. Like I was definitely someone who always liked to improve things. So I would always find in every job I had. I remember the first job I had was working for the Grimsby Tennis Club. And, all my job was to do was to check in the tennis players and make sure they were properly badged and all that stuff and not doing anything silly. And yeah, I took that job to a whole new level. I started like adding in like opportunities for people to play against me because I was a good tennis player. And
So you're a tennis player?
It was. I'm not really as much anymore, but yeah. And, all these different things. I'd add in all these opportunities for people. And I like figured out, I did a scheduling system for the ball machine and like all these different things. And I was always looking for ways to improve. And so like, even like I would go and like weed around the outside of the building to make it look nicer, even though it did look nice. And, like just trying to like always make sure the business looked great so that people can't, and so even though I was like getting paid like, I don't know, $6.15 an hour or something, like, minimum wage back then, but I just took so much pride in doing a job, not just to the state of it, what they wanted me to do, but going way beyond. And I think that's where entrepreneurial skill set sort of shines, is people are always looking for ways to improve or problem solve or find new ways to generate revenue or interest or, and I mean, I was just, I think, doing it to keep myself busy because it wasn't that busy there. But I think that sort of always followed me into every job I ever did.
I love that. So like when you started out in the job world, like what was your first business? Did you have like a business before Haste and Hustle, or like were you actually an employee? Because I've never been an employee, really.
Oh,
I've had a couple jobs, but I've never had a career, which is
well,
I have a master's degree, but I don't have a career. I had to make my own job.
Well, I went into, I had my son in university, so I forced myself to do something marketable, low risk. So I studied science and engineering and, went that route because I was like, this will get me a great job right away and I'll earn money and I'll be able to support my family. And so that's what I did. And I did. I worked for some big companies doing research and different things. But then and I've worked as like bartenders and, had those kind of Joe jobs in school. And
well, that's an awesome job.
I actually love bartending.
I told my kids they should all get their bartending license.
Yeah,
because then you get to party, but you're not partying, so you don't spend any money. You're making money, and you're still in the scene. See?
I know, and it's
parenting. Thank you.
I literally just told my son that last week. I'm like, you're going to be 18 in October. He's going to be off at university. I said, if you get that, you're good.
Yeah, like you're going to be 18. It's time to be a bartender.
Yeah.
We're such good moms.
I know.
We should have a mom's book.
Yeah.
Parenting rule number 1, be a bartender.
Yeah. That's the new high point for me. So then, and I worked, and then, but then when I switched out of that science, I went back to school and studied event management. And then I worked for Niagara College for like a year and a half. And again, I had that same experience where I took programs and different things that were given to me and I excelled them. Like I doubled the size of this one program that we ran for grade 7 students on the March break. And, I got 3 commendations by the president of the college that had been sent in because external stakeholders had sent them in complimenting me. And my boss at the time said to me, he's like, I've never even known anyone to get 1. And
wow.
So I was like kind of laughing. And at the time I was kind of, I was happy there, but I definitely am not. I mean, I like to be an employee for a period of time, but then I like outgrow it super fast. Mm-hmm. And I think I get a little bit bored. And then I also am not always the best operationally. So so then I went, and a couple of years later is when I started my company, because my company is actually called Leverage Events. And so I started running events for other clients, a cosmetics company down in the States and a couple of businesses in Toronto. And at the same time, I started planning out a Haste and Hustle. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. It's so funny how things turn. In your first event, you made a whole bunch of mistakes, because that's the thing with entrepreneurship. Like, you can have all these, the only way you can learn is by doing. It's kind of like real estate investing, what we do. You know, you're kind of learning in real time. So even though you had all these systematic approaches and improvement methods for other people's companies and businesses, you were brave enough to go out and do it on your own, then go, holy Moses, like, whoops. But then you could take that same kind of perfectionist attitude and systematic attitude, apply it for your next go. And I'm telling you, as an attendee of the event, I did not see one thing go wrong.
Wow.
I give you a 10 out of 10.
Lots did, let me tell you.
Perfect. Were there a lot of behind the scenes going on?
Like, yeah, like obviously the first year was the most, and then the second, in that year where you were at, they we definitely had improved significantly. But every event you ever do, there's, I think I'll say that to my last event. There's always things you can do to improve, and you know, and we make note of that. Like, I'm not scared, and I'm not worried of anyone ever saying, you know, this was a screw up or this was something you could improve on. And I'm happy for that feedback, because I like to truly make it better. Like, I love to constantly improve. So, you know, and I think that that's sort of the appeal for Haste and Hustle for people coming, because it's an entrepreneurship event and we are sort of walking the entrepreneurial journey, and people are almost like on that journey with us. And so we can almost say to them, like, look, we're not perfect. Now we're trying and we're doing our very best to, like, always do, you know, provide as much value to people. And, you know, some people you just can't please, you know, like, I think, you know, if someone pays $100 for a ticket to see Gary Vee and 17 other great speakers, and they're pissed off because they, you know, got in late and they got the seat that they didn't get their seat that they wanted, or something, you know, silly, then, you know, they have problems that I can't.
Could I actually comment on that? I have a theory about people like that. These people who always are critics and they always have a problem with everything have never done anything.
Yes.
They have never done it themselves, you know. And because people who have actually done things and put themselves out there, it's so easy to sit around and going, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. But if you actually have the audacity to go out, do it yourself, and know the tremendous configurations going on behind the scene, you are much less likely to sit there and nitpick and complain. And it's always the people who never have done anything themselves are not, you know, they're the first ones to complain, which is frustrating. But we are aimed to please. So I'm sure you took that and said, I'm really sorry. And
of course.
Next time I'm going to get you a seat with your name on it. They'll probably say it wasn't cushiony enough, but you did it, because we are here for the people, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, sometimes, there are people where you just have to say, you know what, I'm sorry you feel that way. Like, there's, you know, I upheld, I don't feel like there are certain times when, you know, you'll get feedback and it's just so ridiculous that you're like, well, sorry you feel that way. You can't argue with people. You just sort of let them have it.
You agree. And you smile, and if you smile and agree, it confuses them.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks. And then you just kind of walk away. It's great, and it confuses them, which is fun for us, right?
Yeah.
Now, you were planning April 1st, 2020, biggest event. And this time you were featuring Sir Richard Branson. Now, I'm telling you, when I saw, because now I've always been on Haste to Hustle since the first event, because I love what you're doing. And I was like, I am going to so be there front row for the next event. When I saw Sir Richard Branson, I almost fell off my seat. I was so excited. I think I'm like, I have to meet him. I need to be there. And I noticed there was this dinner that you were planning where people can actually meet him and get a book and a picture. I was so excited. And then I received notification that I actually ended up winning the ticket to be there, which was even more amazing. I was like, but I think I manifested that. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to put it out there to the universe, because it was so important to me. Because once again, now the Gary Vee, I'm a huge fan now, but my son had to kind of teach me who he was.
Yeah.
And I went for him for the kids because I was more all about the kids. But for Richard, I'm like here for Richard. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell my friends. I am like, yeah, boom, I'm there. I don't care if I'm the only person there. I'm all about the Richard. So tell me what inspired you to pick Sir Richard Branson as the featured speaker this time.
Well, I started out looking at Elon Musk, actually.
Ooh,
and
that would have been interesting.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad now that I haven't got him coming, but and I realized the man that I work with to book speakers, he kind of said to me, he's like, Elon's great. He's very expensive, but he's also not that personable. So he'll come, he'll do his talk. He won't interact with anybody. He's a bit awkward. And although he's a genius and, he can offer some real value, you really do want someone who can interact with your community. And that is important to me. And so he said, if you want to book Richard, or Sir Richard, then, we can kind of work it out where you get, he'll come and do a dinner with like an exclusive dinner that you could sell tickets to. And, as well as he'll come to the event and he'll be, lots of fun on stage. He's very engaging. People love him. He's well known. And he's also completely aligned with things that I really ascribe to. So he's very benevolent. He treats his employees really well. He's, he seems like he's fun loving and interesting. And he kind of like beats his own drum sort of thing. And I'm like, that's what I love. And he's also been an entrepreneur for such a long time and been so successful and also had many failures. It's not like he's got nothing that he's failed at, right? So I think he had so much value to add. And my goal is to always bring someone who can really deeply add some deep value to our community. And so that's what happened. And anyway, so then we, so that's why I wanted him, and then also the dinner was going to be crazy awesome.
Well, I was so excited for the dinner. The reason, like Sir Richard Branson, resonated so much with me as an entrepreneur is for the exact reason that you said, his fun-loving attitude, and he said some pretty impactful things that have influenced me as an entrepreneur. Two of the best things he's ever said that I always take with me is I always do everything. Money is always last. Do what you love and money will follow. And I really strongly believe that. And it's kind of like what you're doing with Haste and Hustle is you are passionate about providing information, changing lives, and you created a business around it. So yes, you need money to live, but it's passion driven. And I think passion driven, that's what real property investments really is all about as well. How many people can we help? Yeah. How can we give them the information that they need? And from that, I always just trust the money will follow. And that really impacted me when Sir Richard Branson said that. And he also said how he finds he's made all of his businesses simply by finding gaps in the market. And I thought that is just fantastic. I don't do that. I really need to start. I kind of find the gaps and fill in, but we have been, because I am a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I've grown some businesses before real property investments, and we have been in the situation a few times where we are the first in. So the innovators, the first in and create it. And then from that point, someone sometimes scoops what we create and takes off with it, which is great because as long as it reaches the end goal, it's fantastic. But I do love how he's built, because after I won this thing, I went back to the library. I've read all his books. I think I didn't know he had so many. I thought I read one or two and that was great. I took out 12. So I've read 12 Richard Branson books in anticipation of meeting Richard. I had no idea what I was going to say. I certainly wasn't going to read from his book or quote some impactful quote, but I just want to be prepared. And I was so excited, and I'm still actually reading through some of them. And then COVID hit, and then the events canceled, and it was so sad. Well, but you handled it like a champ because everything shut down after that. And I remember, you shut down, and then everything kind of like slowly afterwards did this. So what happened since you had to actually cancel it? Now, what are your plans for this event? Is there an actual date, or how are
Yeah.
you moving forward?
Yeah, so we like to say that we're not actually canceled; we're just postponed because we really do have we're working in concert with his team to find a date. They did give me a date in September, but I talked to too many stakeholders that still felt that that was going to be too soon, and that nothing was going to be available and open and whatnot. And I just thought to myself, if I have to go through this again, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, I do not want to have to cancel. So so we're just in the process. We're actually, it is being pushed to 2021 for safety and for also with his schedule. His schedule is crazier than anyone's I've ever met. So we're almost out of date in early 2021, and we'll be announcing it as soon as we've confirmed it. And yeah, so I'm excited about that. It's been really hard. I mean, I certainly don't like to postpone or cancel or any of that stuff, but we had no choice. I mean, the thing that I know, we kind of were the first big one in Canada. Well, not really. There was a couple of others that canceled, and then I saw South by Southwest cancel. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I better send out an email to his team. So I emailed them, and then they wanted to do a call. And sure enough, they were like, you know what, let's redo a date. Like, let's just postpone. So they were really great about it. And so that's what we've been doing. And so it just takes a long time. We kind of let it sit for a little bit, because initially we were like, oh, okay, we'll just maybe rebook it to August or something, because this is before COVID was huge yet, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. So then I was kind of happy that they didn't respond for a few weeks, because I was like watching the news get worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, there's no way we're going to do this in August. And then finally they sent me September, and I'm like, no. I phoned all sorts of people that, you know, are my stakeholders and whatnot. And they were like, no. And so then we just decided, like, let's just push it and do it in a time where we can make sure that it's just going to happen. I mean, pending some other, you know, worldwide crisis that we just don't know about. I mean, who could have predicted this, right?
Yes, exactly. And it's so up in the air, you know.
I know.
Even to this date, you must be nervous. Like, will we be outside in 2021?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, will it be another epidemic or pandemic?
Will we be able to assemble in large groups?
I know. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if this event was smaller, I might have considered the September date if it was like 100 people or something. But when you have 3,000 people coming, that changes the ballgame, right? So so then we just decided to roll out a hustle from home, is what we call it, accelerator series. And what we do is we've offered everybody access to this series that we run, and it's available to anybody. And we were doing 3 webinars a week. Now we're doing 2, just to kind of give people a bit of time, because it is a lot of commitment for 3 a week. And we run 2, and they can go back and rewatch them. We use the Mighty Network software so that people can connect with each other and talk and post articles in the feed, and they can watch all the webinars. They can comment on them, whatever. And it's been awesome. Like, I mean, as you know, when you start anything, you kind of figure out the kinks, and we're kind of working out a few of the kinks right now. Today's is the last one until June 2nd. We're just putting a little bit of a pause just while we build out some digital assets on our website for it. And then we're going to come back with a 2-month-long schedule. And so it's like you say, it's an entrepreneurial venture. We're always like working around everything, and we're looking at doing a few other things too for our ticket holders and for people in our community, just to kind of keep the excitement level up and keep ourselves on top of mind and all that stuff. So, you know, we're just trying to pivot. I mean, this is just one event I have a whole event company, so I've had to cancel and postpone events for my clients. Like, I'm actually supposed to be in Ireland right now doing a week-long event for one of my clients. So I've had to like do a lot of shifting. It's been a little bit hard, but I don't know, you just kind of have to take it as it comes sometimes.
Exactly. And you're doing amazing, an absolutely amazing job with that, with pivoting. That's a very important word. Entrepreneurs really need to know, as we need to know never to stop, just to readjust and pivot, see where
Yeah.
you're at and see how you can move forward. And most importantly, see how you can serve. I always say ABS, always be serving. How many
Yeah.
people can we help? I think we always have to come from a point of giving.
Mhm.
So your website is www.hasteandhustle.com, and that shows everyone all the list of events, upcoming events,
Yeah.
and
So, and then in the coming week, it'll have all the hustle from home information as well. It doesn't yet. That's what we're building out. And yeah, and it'll have all the updates. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get all the you'll get the pre-updates on the new dates and all that exciting stuff. So
that is so amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Shauna. I appreciate your time, and I can't wait I'm going to go to the website right now and check up. And am I okay to sign up for some stuff?
yeah, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, because you know what, it's an excellent. I have before because I love it, and it's an excellent resource tool. And thank you so much for providing valuable resources for entrepreneurs, and thank you for letting us access our heroes. It's great to read and listen, but to see them live and then to have a chance to meet them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still dream of the time I met Tony Robbins. It's, every day I just kind of take a moment and I just sort of ponder and just recall. And I can't wait to do that with Sir Richard Branson as well. So thank you for making it
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your support, and it's been great. So thanks.
Excellent. And everyone watching, visit www.hasteandhustle.com and join us on these webinars. We usually have them once a week on Tuesdays, and we have the Real Property Report on Saturdays, as well as our other events. And we have events happening weekly because, Shauna, we had to switch all our events online, but we're very grateful because now we can actually reach more people and help serve more people. And all our events are on www.rpinvestments.ca. So thank you so much again, Shauna, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.